Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
Good old cat memes. Somewhat of a staple on this channel. Almost entirely replacing trees as a staple on this channel. Now, if you have no idea what I'm talking about here because you're somewhat new to this channel, there's not really much more to say. It never really did make much sense. Today I wanted to delve into this topic. Not actually this post, but the replies to it. The purpose of Bitcoin is nothing but to transfer the power of money from banks and governments back to the people. That's one person's interpretation of Bitcoin, the code. The interesting thing is there are many interpretations. It doesn't necessarily mean one person's right or wrong. But let's assume that people are right or wrong in this circumstance. I wanted to talk about the obvious reply to it, and I didn't need to get very far to find it. The power just goes to exchanges and whales, not the people. It may seem like this is the case right now. In fact, I would say that this rationale, this thought, this idea has been growing in popularity for a long time now. But what I want to talk about is how you don't have to play the games that the whales want you to. You can choose to just get right up out of there. I talked about this chart a few days ago, how this dip didn't look like it was going to go any further than it did because volume was very low. We've surged up since then, but again, volume is still very low. So right now, it doesn't actually take probably half as much money as you think it does to cause these movements in Bitcoin because volume is so low. So this is the game the whales want you to play. They want you to go long above 10K and they want you to go short below 10K. Multiple times this would have wrecked you. So if you're greedy, you open yourself up to their manipulation and they will toss you about.
Rappers are monkey flipping with the funky rhythm I be kicking. Musician and
I see one of these photos being posted pretty much every other day at the moment. $68.5 million of shorts getting liquidated on BitMEX.
I felt a great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. I fear something terrible has happened.
That's not to say that some people can't profit off of this, but just understand that 95% of traders lose money. Out of the 5% that do, 1% of that 5% do it consistently. It's a very small percentage. But let's assume you aren't greedy. Let's assume you're a nice guy. Let's assume you don't leverage trade. Not to say that. Anyway, let's say you don't risk large chunks of your portfolio in an attempt to increase it. Then this argument of the power going to anyone else does not apply to you. Your 0.1 Bitcoin, your 1 Bitcoin is still worth 1 Bitcoin. And a really important thing to keep in mind is context. Context is everything. Do Bitcoin detractors say statements like the power is only going to whales and exchanges truly think there is a better alternative than cryptocurrency in attempting to bring about the biggest distribution of wealth, certainly in our generation, but possibly in the entire human history? Is the S&P 500 better? Is gold better? Is that what they're trying to say? That's a laughable statement. No, hell no, that's not better. So let's talk about these whales. These individuals who were either very smart or just dumb lucky to get into Bitcoin early or just have a lot of money in the first place and buy a lot of it. Now, assuming they've had Bitcoin for a long time, as many of them have, that means they've held through many ups and downs, many bear and bull cycles in Bitcoin without dumping their entire stack and exit crashing the market, and in a way locking up tokens from the circulating supply in the process. In a truly decentralized and lawless way, which the Bitcoin protocol is meant to be, right? There is some democracy involved with it, but it's code, not politicians. That's the official motto or something. Who is to say that these whales don't deserve their Bitcoin? Unless they stole it or something. But who are you to mediate and say that they don't deserve it? Or that Bitcoin is bad because of these people? I thought the point of cryptocurrency was that intermediation was not needed, or at least severely weakened in its necessity. Having said that, it should theoretically get more and more equal over time as more and more people get involved in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And once again, show me an alternative outside of cryptocurrency that doesn't have the exact same issue, but on a much larger and worse scale. You just have to look longer term. The obvious Bitcoin manipulation, which is going on right now, wrecking the greedy, won't be as easy as it is right now forever. In fact, it may not even be that much longer that it's this easy. For example, let's assume the Bitcoin market cap is 10 times what it is right now. Then it would take almost 10 times as much money to cause these movements. That's 10 times more risk for a whale. Potentially a lot more rewards, but that's a lot of risk. And the one thing whales are scared of is other whales. So in my mind, over time, the whales are less and less incentivized to get up to these shenanigans, for want of a better word. For example, according to this research, Coinbase has 30 million users and has added 5 million within the last 10 months. That's a pretty incredible growth rate. I mean, obviously there is a huge uptick late 2017, which we can see here, and then it sort of started to slow off mid 2018, but it's still good right now. It doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. That's a 16% increase this year alone. There are way more users now than there was in the bull run for Bitcoin in 2017. Just let that sink in for a moment. As far as alternatives within cryptocurrency, there's probably more than a few. I just don't see anything overtaking Bitcoin at this point. Speaking of alts, looking at the dominance charts for Bitcoin, there was a brief lull in its march upwards, but that now has been pretty much overcome and scaling again to new all-time highs. That hasn't been the case for early 2017. This action has led at least one analyst to remark, altcoins are to Bitcoin what lead is to gold. What an insult. Market cap readings set highs across the board. Altcoins in the top 20, however, mostly failed to achieve more than 4%, meaning they, in fact, lost value in Bitcoin terms. Some commenters voiced caution about placing faith in Bitcoin's strength. Market cap, they argued, is a poor measure of performance as it includes many altcoins which do not even have any trading volume. I don't know if the majority of people realize just how bad it is. Like, those encouraging to pick up alts at any point right up until at least now have essentially been telling people to run into a burning building. That said, I do think these things move in waves, and if you think it won't, that the technology behind the altcoins is completely irrelevant, has no bearing, there's no other reason for an altcoin wave, or in other words, they're never coming back into popularity, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you, actually. But the point is, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, the entirety of the huge altcoin cycle we saw early 2018, which actually began just before Bitcoin started to crash, could have been, right, theoretically, could have been caused by Bitcoin whales because, and we looked at some charts, many altcoins started to boom on the same day, or at least within the same 2-3 day span. Therefore, it may have just been a game by whales to try and get more Bitcoin. And there's always going to be a market for people who have Bitcoin and want more. That will always be the case. When? I don't know. But is it coming? I think so. Anyway, lastly, in the news generally, Bitcoin price hits massive $2,219 premium in Argentina amid economic turmoil. Now, a premium that high definitely makes you stand up and take notice. Bitcoin is surging in Argentina as the country's economic woes intensify. Its government just announced new restrictions on the purchase of US dollars. Citizens are now blocked from buying more than $10,000 unless they obtain permission from the country's central bank. Businesses are also impacted. In order to make transfers abroad, companies must now receive the go-ahead from the central bank. That's absolutely insane. As the old saying goes, this is good for Bitcoin. It does beg the question of what happens when an even larger nation goes through an economic turmoil. Let's say England, for example, maybe even China. Rumors of a Chinese currency collapse within 5 years are abounding. Sorry, that's my air conditioning unit. It wasn't my stomach or anything. If something like that happened, that would be absolutely crazy. Again, for Bitcoin, I doubt a nation's people are going to decide, you know what, the coin we're going to flock to as we need as we need some safety from our economic woes, it's going to be Ethereum. As just, you know, a random example, but it gets crazier the lower you go down in the list. I just don't really see it happening. All right, that's it for me today. Let me know what you think. I actually did plan on making a video yesterday. I apologize for not getting out on it, getting it out. I felt bad for taking a long classic WoW induced hiatus, but yesterday some installation guys came around and spent 6 hours in this room putting that AC unit up. But it's nice and cold in here, so I can wear more hoodies more comfortably and you know, do my part for the markets, because another staple of this channel is that the hoodies help, you know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hey, are you sleeping? Yes. Now shut up. I don't think 10K support will hold. I don't think it will either. When your friends and loved ones still refuse to invest in Bitcoin. Yeah, this is true. I'm trying to show them the way, but trust me, they're not going to buy until we hit